Well, I just want to put a couple other things out here because a lot of people I put something out about, brokers and investment advisors and financial fund managers. Why did they actually go out and tell the world, like, oh, yeah, this is what's going to happen and I'm trying to save you? It's because they're looking for more clients for the most part. Now, maybe some people that are maybe older, like Mark Faber, he might be telling some things. But, I got to say this, even about him. I think he's probably the best one. It's probably giving the most straight scoop. But when he goes to sell his gold, who is he going to sell it to? Is he going to sell it to Wall Street sharks or central banks? No, he's going to be selling it to suckers. I mean, that's really how I'll put it. Because, it's like you make your money by buying something cheap somebody had to give up because they're in a financial crunch. They have a cash crunch they have to sell. So they have to sell dirt cheap, so he buys. And then when people are all euphoric and stuff like that, and it's getting too expensive and it's really overpriced, he sells it to you. He sells it to you, and you give him your hard-earned cash. None of these guys are saints, okay? I mean, that's probably Common Sense 101 or even simpler than Common Sense 101. But when everybody's looking for information as to what's going to happen in the markets, usually when there's the most crisis situation going on, that's when you get the worst advice going. Period. You actually get the worst advice going at all. Period. In when there's the biggest crisis going on, that's when you'll be steered wrong the most because everybody is emotional. That's why you got to keep a calm head. And a lot of people were talking, or some people were talking about when silver went down to 18 or whatever it's at 20 now, that it'll never recover for years. And, they're telling you it's going to go to $8 or $10. And they've been telling you this for months and months and months and months and on end. And, well, they're basically telling you never to buy. I've been telling you, if you don't have it, accumulate. If you already have it, you don't have to keep buying or put every cent you have into one thing. Never do that. Never put all your money in one area. But if you don't have any, you should be accumulating some at these kind of levels. It's not like, some people mock it, then they change 180 degrees the other way when the coast is looking clear, But those are emotional people, and you want to be not emotional when you're making financial decisions. That's one thing. You do not want to be overly emotional. I know sometimes the fundamentals don't make sense. I mean, they might make sense, but the markets don't make sense. How's that? Because it is driven by greed and emotion and fear, a lot of times. So this year I've been predicting that, it's hard to say what's going to happen in the future when you're sitting here, you're saying what's going to happen in the future. But, it seems like logically every 3 years there seems to be a spike in the metals. We had one in 2005. We had one in 2008. We had one in 2011. So I've been thinking all along, maybe 2014. We've already had a long correction period. And if, something happens with Israel and the conflict in the Middle East or anything with Iran, due to maybe somebody, like we were talking about this astrological event with the 4 blood moons I put out, a lot of times that has to do with a war in the Middle East. The last time they had the 4 blood moons was when Israel gained its independence, 49. And, actually 48, 49, 50, right? They had, where it was like a period of time. And, with the Arab-Israeli conflict. And also the other 4 blood moons occurred in 67, 68 with the 6-Day War. And the 4 blood moons are supposed to occur from April 2014 to September 2015. A lot of times it seems to coincide with events with Israel. So if that's the case, if there's something going on in the Middle East, that's going to actually drive up gold prices a lot, and silver and oil. And we shall see. But, every year everybody puts out, this is the year that World War III is going to start, the dollar is going to collapse and everything else. I don't think so. I think I think these things will happen, though. I think some of the worst things in the world that people are thinking of about World War III, the dollar collapsing and all this type of stuff, will happen, but it's not going to happen this year. It may be a lot quicker than people think. It might be 2017, 2018. That's my, just looking at the cycles and the way things are, because it's $17 trillion debt, interest rates are going to start creeping up again. and they're not going to be able to service the debt. And the only way they're going to be able to service the debt is to add more debt. And nobody's going to buy our debt, so that's going to be more QE. There's not going to be taper. There's not going to be taper. So, but also have to put out this, because when people are pushing this, and I'll give you a name like Schiff or somebody. The guy's a broker, right? I mean, he's been pushing gold and silver and buy the emerging markets, and the United States is going to fall, and don't invest in a dollar, and whatever he says exactly. But basically, he's a broker. He's pushing his firm. So that's really what it is. A lot of times these people get on here for a sales pitch. Actually, if I was doing this and working for a brokerage firm, it would probably be very lucrative for me to do that. But I'd have to be far more professional with charts and, sell you stuff, because charts always sell. Charts sell. Believe me, they sell. You can show things with statistics and charts. People go, oh yeah, but that doesn't mean the future. But I'm actually looking out for the little guy and the average Joe all the way, because this deal with the financial angle is not the whole picture. That's the problem with Wall Street, because they're in a microcosm. They only see money. They only see numbers. I mean, the whole freaking earth could be like swallowing them up all around them or something, and Godzilla could be coming out of the Atlantic Ocean and, ready to clobber them or some shit. And, they'll have their freaking nose in the damn computer all day, worrying about the trades or whatever the hell else is going on. These guys are living in a microcosm. That's the problem. And they're not concerned about what's going on in the real world. They think their world is the real world, but it's not the real world. It's like they're parasites and leeches. And, the thing is, like I said, is if they go away, if the whole system did come down and whatever the hell it is, those parasites and leeches are not going to be the productive members of society that are going to bring things back. It's going to be the blue-collar worker all the way. So, stick with your damn investment all the way. I'm never saying that they'll abandon it. And, the naysayers are saying, or maybe they're changing tune now or whatever the hell it is, because every time it looks like things are going to go up, they do 180 degrees. These are emotional people. That's one thing you don't want to be in investing. You don't want to be emotional. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Simple common sense rules, right? But actually, people that did put a lot of money into silver and are patient and they don't take it out and they just left it and they just left their bullion alone or whatever they have, they're probably going to do very, very well in the future. Probably, more than likely. I would love to be selling it to the the attorneys and the doctors and the Wall Street brokers at very high prices, but unfortunately, who the hell knows who's going to buy it, That's what I think is going to happen. But what's going to happen, though, is, like I said, the number one thing that we can see on the wall right here, the writing on the wall, is that interest rates are creeping up. That's got bond traders worried to the max. Alan Greenspan already warned us about inflation. He's being coy when he's talking about that. Warren Buffett already told us about beware of the safety of paper currencies. The guys knows. These guys are already dropping their hints. They're not going to drop the same hint every day. The guys that are dropping hints every day are looking for business, for their investment firms or whatever the hell they are, their brokerage houses or whatever, And then, of course, you always have the fear porn mongers. Every year they tell you the dollar's going to fall, and every year they tell you World War III is going to start, and the Illuminati are going to do this, and this is what we got to do to stop them. And they always put this shit out every day. Every year, same damn prediction. Just change the title to 12 to 13 to 14 to 15 or whatever. I do think, though, I thought 12 was going to be something. Partly because I had superstition on the Mayan calendar. So maybe this blood moons doesn't mean a damn thing. I look at these things a little bit. I do look at them a little bit. I don't really get into them too much. But 12, actually, in 2012, in the spring of 2012, actually Netanyahu almost did. He wanted to attack Iran, and it didn't do it. My understanding is that he was stopped by the Mossad. If that happened, our silver prices would have already skyrocketed. But now that I'm thinking about some other common sense things, if they're backing off sanctions on Iran, well, that's really giving them real reason to attack them, and that's making it much more likely in a common sense approach. In other words, now also you don't hear the rhetoric from Israel too. You heard it before, and now you don't hear nothing. So I don't know. It may be in the spring. It may be. If that's the case, gold, oil, and silver is going to skyrocket, especially the oil. Oil is going to go right through the roof. So, but in a practical sense, a lot of people on Wall Street be saying, well, yeah, I place my bets. But, you as an average person ought to be thinking about, what that means to you. That, if high oil prices come about, that means it's going to be higher food prices because everything's transported. Everything that is grown is used as pesticides. And, also even with, some of the crazy weather we've had, severe cold, severe droughts, it's been... if you take the average aggregate rainfall and all this type of stuff and temperature, it's not changing that much, but we've had too many extremes in the world, and it's actually affected crop production. So I think eventually that's going to actually hit the price of food. I don't know why it has not hit the price of food that much, except in certain areas, but it can. It definitely can. One thing that's coming up actually scientifically is that there's supposed to be a mini ice age coming. And if you look back at a long time ago, I forgot, like in some instances, the price of oats or something like that went up like many, 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 many times. It was ridiculous. It was like, I forgot in today's dollars, it would be, I don't know, like a ridiculous amount of money. It was unaffordable to people because the weather changed that much. It does look like the global warming thing is a total farce to the max, and we're kind of going into a colder period of time. I mean, just obvious, what's been going on recently in the UK, what's been going on in Northern Europe, in the Northeast United States. There's been a hell of a lot more snow and cold, and, we just had Storm Hercules. But it's also affecting crop production globally. And, as this does this, that's going to raise the price of food quite a bit. So actually, if you are in a silver investor or whatever you are, or stacker or whatever hell you want to call it, actually you better be a food stacker before you ever even invest 1 ounce of silver. So I'm talking to the regular people out there, the brokers out there and stuff like that, trying to make millions of dollars on Wall Street. If they're stuck in a city when a crisis happens, they're going to be screwed. They're going to be just as screwed as when Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Turks. They're going to be all crushed into one area, and, that's it. They're done. Doesn't matter what the hell they are. It may actually, if there's a real crisis, that's what I'm saying. These guys got their nose in a microcosm, and they're not thinking outside of what's going on in the overall picture, because they don't care. They're just looking at money and what goes on in their own company and grabbing more clients. That's what they're looking for. So you, as the average American individual, the blue-collar worker, you're the backbone of the United States. And number one, you should invest in food before you invest in silver. If you invest in silver, number one, you should invest in physical silver first. Don't actually look at the money angle of it right away. Don't get emotional with the price. The price being as it is right now, when people get all hyper and they jumping for joy, you ought to add a little more now. And when people are jumping for joy later on, because maybe it went to 35 or 40, maybe sell that little bit you add at that time that you didn't expect to buy now. In other words, anything you're buying around 20 or below 20 is maybe something you might want to sell when it doubles. That's a hell of a gain, isn't it? That is a hell of a gain. So think of it that way. And that's one reason you might want to penny pinch on a lot of different things, because every penny you pinch now that you might pinch into silver might be twice as many pennies that you get later on, even in the short term. Now, ultimately, it probably is going to be a hell of a lot higher than that. And I would not advise selling, the bulk of your silver at $40. But you might want to sell a little bit, even there. Because, in other words, if you're adding a little bit here and there right now that you never expected to buy, why not? You know what I'm saying? If you're pinching money on lunch, you're pinching money on this. I'm talking to the average Joe here. I'm not talking to, Wall Street broker guy that's trying to play leverage to the hilt and all this kind of crap with options. I'm talking to the regular people here right now. In other words, if you're pinching a little bit money here and there, you don't want to, you make less trips to the store or whatever like that. You economize. You buy things at discount, you buy things bulk or whatever it is, and you got a little extra money for silver. I don't know, like calling it extra money, but you have a little more money to invest in silver. Do it that way. Do it that way. And that silver, maybe that you get right now, maybe you want to just dump at $40. Not all of it, but maybe a slight amount of it. And then if it goes over 50, then you do a little bit more or whatever. That probably is your safest bet all the way. And it's not the Wall Street game, but I think Wall Street is going to get it in the long run because basically, it's an old Roman saying, the truth is mighty and it shall prevail. Wall Street is basically, a lot of them are parasites, and they're blood-sucking leeches on society. And they're not really giving back anything to society. When we talk money, we should be talking about goods and services. They're not really producing for us in any rational, meaningful way. They're taking. So, just the way is to opt out of that system. And I do agree that physical is the best way to opt out of the system. Go with physical silver and Bitcoins. I'm going to interject this again to get the end here. Bitcoins, I think, actually is, my suspicion is there's a lot more behind it than it may be associated with the government, despite what people think. I would not, I don't think Bitcoins is investing outside the system like people say it is, even though it's got all its rationale that it could be, but it's not what I consider outside the system in a real way. In other words, physical silver is, and physical food is.